Hey, everybody. American Express, Delta, Ben & Jerry's. What do they have all in common? You should stop using them. My conversation with the blacks who run Second Vote. That's secondvote.com. You could spell it out, or you can go 2ndvote.com. Use promo code Charlie. Right now, for just $2 a month, you can find out what are the companies doing that you're spending your money. So here's how it works, okay? If you fly Delta Airlines, you just probably gave money to Stacey Abrams. If you eat Ben & Jerry's ice cream, you basically are giving money to people who hate Jews. Now, if that might trigger you a little bit, then you got to listen to this episode, and then you got to get involved with Second Vote. Remember, what you buy ends up creating the country you want to live in. I know that's a whole new way of framing things. We don't think that way as conservatives. But if you get that ice cream, and I got to admit, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, it's delicious. I'm never having it again because I love Jews. Unlike Ben & Jerry's, they hate Jews. I'm never having Coca-Cola ever again. Why? Because they hate our country. Now, it's a big sacrifice. As I sit next to a thing of Fiji water, as someone here bought a Coca-Cola product, they're no longer with us because they bought Coca-Cola products. That's how it works. Secondvote.com informs you to be able to cancel correctly. That's right. We need to learn how to cancel correctly. People say, I don't like cancel culture. I like canceling the left. Secondvote.com. You need to cancel American Express, cancel all these jerks that have done such damage to our country. I know that some of you might say, Charlie, you're exaggerating. Oh, really? Where do you think Planned Parenthood gets some of their money from? Where do you think Bernie Sanders gets his money from? Ben & Jerry's. Where do you think some of these Democrat politicians are financed by? Try Bank of America, Wells Fargo. So if you want to expand your horizon and really purchase what you believe in, don't buy products from people who hate you. Don't buy products from people who hate you. It's secondvote.com, and this is my conversation of how you can cancel correctly. Oh, yeah, and producer Andrew's with me, co-pilot. Buckle up, everybody. Here we go.
Charlie, what you've done is incredible here.
Maybe Charlie Kirk is on the college campus.
I want you to know we are lucky to have Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk's running the White House, folks.
I want to thank Charlie. He's an incredible guy. His spirit, his love of this country. He's done an amazing job building one of the most powerful youth organizations ever created, Turning Point USA.
We will not embrace the ideas that have destroyed countries, destroyed lives, and we are going to fight for freedom on campuses across the country. That's why we are here. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Charlie Kirk Show. Now, there's two ways to get the Second Vote. You could spell out Second Vote or 2ndvote.com. And I think it's promo code Charlie or Kirk. Which is it? It's something like that. We're going to get you the promo code, but you, for literally $2 a month, you can become a subscriber to Second Vote. And the blacks are with us again today. Welcome back, guys.
Thank you, Charlie. It's great to be with you.
You bet. And also, producer Andrew is co-piloting this very important episode.
Honored to be here as always.
And it's promo code Charlie for everyone keeping score at home. Promo code Charlie. We do this every couple weeks to kind of give an update of what's going on with woke corporations, what's going on in our multi-trillion-dollar economy, of how these companies are increasingly waging war on our values and our worldview. And I'm really glad we do this because I think it's important that people at home realize that the companies that they might be spending a fair amount of money with actually might not be representing their values.
Yeah, that's right. And we were right before we started this interview, we were hearing about the success of this audience, and what the engagement with Second Vote that's already happening as a result. So, Charlie, with your permission, I thought we'd just start right there, and we'd love to hear from you guys and the response that you're receiving.
Well, yes, and thank you very much, Diane, and I really want to thank the audience. Your followers. We have had a great response with subscriptions, with investor council memberships, with donations. And it's really been very gratifying that we know that your audience is not only listening, but they're active. They're willing to make a difference by their actions. And that is really, really appreciated. It's necessary to keep doing this research work so that we can share this information. But out of all the things we've done over the last 9 years, this is without a doubt the greatest success we've seen. So thank you.
We're Charlie, I got to tell you too that we are here in Middle Tennessee, and I've had friends that I didn't know even listened to your show, and they said, "Oh, we were listening to Charlie, and we heard you guys talking." So you're very popular in Middle Tennessee.
Well, we love Middle Tennessee. That is real. That's real America there. Tennessee is one of my favorite states in the whole country, truly. And so let's get into it. And just for everyone that might not have listened to this episode or this type of conversation before, we go through specifics of kind of what's going on in corporate America, and some people are really surprised by it. So Andrew, why don't you take the lead, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we call this the rise of the corporate villains. My words, not yours. I'm not gonna, but really, I mean, this whole last year when it came from the All-Star break or the All-Star game getting moved from Atlanta to Colorado. I mean, we saw this rise in the power of corporations and the power of the MLB in that instance to really push back against common sense reforms. And it seems like the news cycle can't keep up with it. I mean, every day there's a new article about some corporation somewhere doing something that completely grates against the values of traditional Americans, conservative Christians, social conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I thought, Diane, with your expertise, on the pro-life issue, I thought we'd just jump in right there. There is a lot of news coming out of Uber and Lyft. I know you're well-versed in that. Tell us about it.
I want to put a little context behind that because many of you know there was a law recently passed in the Tennessee legislature. It was a Tennessee abortion law. And it then says now that you cannot have an abortion after what would commonly be 6 weeks, but after a heartbeat is found. And
is that the Texas law? Not Tennessee.
Excuse me, that's the
the
Texas law. And so we are seeing now corporations that are getting involved in this issue by saying, for instance, Lyft and Uber say if the person who performs the abortion illegally, because it is past the time of the heartbeat, that they will pay the legal fees for the folks who are riding in their vehicles or for the folks that are sued. And so we have a corporation that is supposed to just be providing you a ride now getting involved in what the Texas law that was passed.
Yeah. And so just as a side note to this, one of the ways that people are attacking the Texas law is they say, oh, well, even an Uber driver could end up getting looped into the civil complaint if he's driving someone to the abortion clinic, where the answer is, well, of course, if you knowingly drive someone to a place of murder, then of course you're going to be possibly looped into a criminal or civil complaint. For example, if you get into a taxi after you land, at Dallas Fort Worth Airport and you tell the taxi cab driver, like, hey, can you drive me to my boyfriend's house? I got to go murder him. And the taxi cab driver knows that they are a co-conspirator. And so one of the complaints people have been giving against this law is that it unnecessarily loops in people that could be accessories to this. Now, what you're talking about, though, is that Uber and Lyft are saying that they are going to pay the legal fees for anyone that might get looped into this. But however, that's kind of strange because if they actually read the law, women themselves are actually exempt from any sort of civil complaint under the Texas law.
That's correct. So it is now up to the physicians and those who are encouraging abortion to be held responsible because many of these women are so vulnerable and it is really difficult for them. They're in a situation that's very hard with making that decision. And so we hold physicians now accountable for that. If they hear a heartbeat and they continue to do the abortion, they're going to be held accountable for that.
Yes.
And what's interesting,
go ahead,
is they call this pro-choice, but oftentimes the women are not provided the choice when they go to these clinics. They're really convinced at the clinic that their only real option is to go through that abortion, which, there's so many aspects of this that are so troubling with regard to the manner in which this is acted out. But then now we have Lyft and Uber providing additional financial support. They're big, huge companies. But what's really remarkable too, that's not their money. That's the money of the investors. These are publicly traded companies and their investors are the ones. These CEOs that are making these decisions are really, I call this business egonomics, not economics. These guys use other people's money to put themselves in the news and get this camera attention, acting like they're these great, benefactors or, compassionate people. But really, they're using other people's money. And, the CEO of Uber in 2015 was the highest paid CEO in America. And he's not using his money. He's using the money of hardworking Americans who are invested in a company where they're looking for a good return on their investment.
So I just want to list some of the companies that have now spoken in against the Texas law who are pro-abortion companies. Yelp, Lyft, Ben & Jerry's, Patagonia. And this is not an exhaustive list, by the way. Lush Fresh Handmade Cosmetics. Bumble Benefit Cosmetics. The Body Shop. Let's say La Columba Coffee Roasters. The list goes on. There's over 50 companies that have done this. And it seems as if they're trying to pander to some sort of pro-abortion market there. And if we continue on, we will see that there's a lot happening around this Texas drama. So can you talk about Salesforce that is now offering to relocate employees and their families after the Texas abortion law goes into effect?
Yes, isn't that just really something that you have Salesforce now that says that if we will pay for you to move. If you want an abortion, we will pay for you to move because of what Texas has done. And here's the other thing, Charlie. I'm a little bit older, and back in 1973, when Roe v. Wade was decided, and science did not show us that this really was a baby. And now we know we have much better information to say this is a baby, and at 6 weeks, it has a heartbeat. It's no longer what was said back then, just a blob of tissue. And by the way, the abortion industry then said, we want it to be legal. We want it to be safe, which we know is not safe even now because we have people like Gosnell who are just doing procedures that make my stomach turn, and rare. And we know it's not rare. So we have free birth control. There is no reason why there can't be a lesser number of unwanted pregnancies. So there's so much out there that has changed over the last 50 years now that we know that this is a baby. That we know that at 15 weeks, which is, by the way, the Dobbs case coming out of Mississippi, we know at 15 weeks that these babies suck their thumb. We actually have video of twins playing with one another in the womb. So science has really changed this whole issue of abortion, and birth control being free to everyone really should be stopping the number of necessary unwanted pregnancies.
Well, see, I have a contrarian take on this. I'm actually, I think it's abhorrent. Don't get me wrong, but my take is good riddance. I mean,
you mean get them out of Texas.
Get the liberals out of Texas. We have an ongoing conversation on this show about how do you keep Texas red? How do you keep Florida red? How do you Tennessee red? How do you keep all of these states? Because people are fleeing all the liberal strongholds like New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania. Well, Pennsylvania's kind of half and half, but California. And they're moving into the red states where life is still good, the land is still free, and it still feels like America. Well, how do you do that? Well, you pass laws that the left finds so onerous that they're willing to spend their corporate money to move out the liberal Democrat voters out into the hinterlands of back to California. On the one hand, I find this abhorrent. On the other hand, it's like, well, what else could we pass that will offend them so mightily? How about open carry? That sounds like a good start, But the point being is, this is such a reveal by the woke corporates that they would be willing to take shareholder value away from their shareholders to relocate.
That's right.
Relocate their employees.
Well, I must confess, I haven't heard that before, but I like it. But I will tell you too, like Salesforce, big organization. Their company CEO, their CEO also is another individual spending corporate money. When he says we're going to move you from Salesforce, he's using shareholder money to do
exactly.
It. It's not his money, but the guy's worth about $9 billion.
Well, and
so he's not using his money.
Totally.
He's using my money, your money, whoever's a customer of them. But also, they're very bad also on religious liberty. When Indiana passed their Religious Freedom Act, it was Salesforce that among others, that really went after the state of Indiana and pushed back on that, where the Indiana legislature did change that law that they had passed for religious liberty. So these are anti-First Amendment people. These are bad actors across the board.
Well, I'm reminded of something. This is not the first time that we've seen something like this, and I'm reminded now of Georgia when Georgia passed a similar sort of measure that was trying to curtail the period in gestation that you could have an abortion. And remember what happened. Hollywood threatened to boycott. Hollywood tried to move out of Georgia. They said that they would. They were going to shut down filming and all these Marvel movies that are filming in Atlanta and this and that. Fast forward to 2020, and then the special election, the runoff. It's like, how much do you wish Georgians now, looking back, would have said, good riddance, Hollywood. Yeah, actually, you can take all those jobs. You know what? We'll be fine. You go your way. We're going to go ours. I mean, this is, I think, a new era in the conservative movement where we have to, as Charlie always calls them, ribbon cutting Republicans, where we just want to make, and this is happening in Miami, by the way, right now. We got the mayor there is
going to lose Miami.
Luring all of the Silicon Valley big tech to Miami. And it's like, well, listen, we're just getting Florida back into a place where we, this might be a predictably conservative state for a decade. So what we're going to just bring in all the woke corporate and their employees. Mm-hmm. So anyways, the point is, I think the whole paradigm, it needs to be shifted, and we need to start looking at not all company, all jobs good. As conservatives, we need to say, hey, some industries, some jobs are good, and if they're going to represent our values, then so be it. That'll be great. And I think that's the whole point of Second Vote, and your guys' mission is to sort of, separate the wheat from the chaff. So anyways, we've got lots more stories here. I don't mean to monologue. I just get so passionate about these ribbon cutters. We could easily spend the rest of the show talking about vaccines if we want to go on to vaccines yet, if you guys are ready. But there's a lot of news coming out, especially with United Airlines. I saw that story. Tell us what's going on with United.
Well, again, we have these major, big international corporations that are in collusion with big government, really attacking it's big government, big business socialism attacking our individual liberties. And these mandates are not good science. They're not good medicine, but they are controlling, and they do deny individuals their rights. But these mandates make no sense. There is no, and by the way, I still hold academic appointments in immunology and bacteriology and pathology and pharmacology and toxicology. So I'd like to think that I'm an educated speaker on this issue, but we're giving no credit for natural immunity. We've got 100 million people in America that have had COVID. And if you've had COVID, you don't need the vaccine unless you've got some unusual circumstance that is going on in your health. But that health issue ought to be between you and your doctor. These corporations are inserting themselves between the patient and the doctor. And it is denying good medicine. It's denying the individual to control their own health. And this is just wrong on so many different levels. The corporations, of course, they're being pushed now by big government, but they're willing actors to participate with big government to go through these exercises. So this is a very disturbing story that's replicating itself all across the United States. And what's amazing to me, too, in the healthcare industry, where there are doctors and nurses refusing to get the vaccine. And, allegedly, we've got all this demand on our healthcare system, and yet big hospitals and all are dismissing employees when it's a health system. They should know about natural immunity. They should also know about the right for an individual to determine their own healthcare between themselves and their physician. So this is extremely disturbing that these corporations now, in collusion with big government, are really interfering with your individual liberty, your own health. I don't know if you saw the physician declaration that came out several days ago, where thousands of doctors worldwide are calling for this to stop.
Yes.
And they're saying we've got to restore good medicine and good science. We've got to restore the patient-client relationship. We've got to get politics out of medicine. And hopefully more and more. I signed it. Many scientists and physicians have signed it. And hopefully we can get enough steam up to really push back on this.
Good for you. This is the headline. United Airlines set to terminate 593 workers for refusing COVID-19 vaccine. So we are now in the midst of a pandemic, right? This is what the left always likes to say. In the midst of a pandemic where we're just trying to get the economy back on, we have companies in the military, the border patrol, I mean, the list goes on. They're firing people. Mm-hmm. They're putting them is this what's in the best interest of these employees? Is this, is this what's in their best interest, Charlie?
Well, I mean, of course not. But these companies have become so big that they really don't care. And I mean, except for the airline's going to be very interesting. Those are not easy businesses to run. And if you lose 10% of your workforce, especially if it's in a skilled area, it's very difficult to replace that. And let's just stop fooling ourselves. The vaccine is not preventing these people from getting COVID. It's not. It might be a treatment for certain people, but it's certainly not preventing anyone. And this also goes to this story where you mentioned the 5,000 doctors and scientists signed the declaration, but now there's all these evictions and the Democrats oppose the tenant evictions except for the unvaccinated. I guess my question is, in all the research you've done, is there any major company that is protecting the rights of their employees?
That's a great question. We are seeing small companies. We are seeing some companies trying to push back, but the fines that you're going to be subjected to, we do know of a company in Colorado who's a rather good medium-sized company that's saying, no, we're not going to do this. They're going to fight it legally. But this is what it's all about. It's all about intimidation. It's all about losing your job or being fined out of existence, seeing such onerous fines. And, the hypocrisy of evicting, this eviction issue of, after spending a year that nobody could be evicted for non-payment of their rent, now we're going to evict people who are deciding on their own health care with their physician, or perhaps just even on their own, that they're going to be evicted if they choose not to take this injection.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel's about ready, I think, to move into their fourth shot. Where does this end? The vaccines, by the way, are very limited in the protection they generate. First of all, they're experimental. They're messenger RNA vaccines. They're something brand new. This is not a traditional vaccine. But when you're injected with that, you get a very limited antibody response. It's not like natural immunity where you get a whole family of antibodies. Here you're getting just a limited response of antibodies to that particular spike protein that's being developed by the messenger RNA. The net result is you're not fully protected. Mm-hmm. And you're definitely not protected against the variants because you don't have that broad set of antibodies to respond to the next generation infection with the variants. So I don't know where the end game is here. This is like Afghanistan. There was no plan on how to exit. I have yet to read of any plan on how we're going to exit ourselves out of this. And so this is not science. This is bad medicine. This is just not the proper approach.
Well, the administration also doesn't want to talk about those that are coming over the border, that they're not requiring to have vaccines and they're letting them go throughout our country. So if you want to not have to worry about taking a vaccine, just go down and come over the Mexican border and then you're okay.
Well, it's all backwards, isn't it? It's all backwards, isn't it? Yeah. We have gotten into this mode where we are punishing law-abiding citizens and we are rewarding lawbreakers. It's all upside down.
Anarcho-tyranny is a good word for it.
And this is from Reuters. Biden vaccine mandates, Republicans angry, business groups muted. And guess what? The Chamber of Commerce has even said, by the way, they do oppose Biden's tax and spending proposal. They're always about that. But they said it would, quote, carefully review the vaccination mandate. Carefully review.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So I want to.
It is.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just going to say it is so interesting that all through the COVID experience, there has been various forms of suppression of individual rights. And, what's happened to the churches during COVID where they were shut down, but bars were allowed to be open which I'm not in favor of shutting anything down, but they shut down churches but other operations, abortion clinics could stay in business. It is all arbitrary. And for those leaders at the federal level or state level or corporate level that say they're following the science. It's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
Any corporation should have access to physicians or any scientist of their choosing to give them an opinion on this. And privately, I can tell you, many doctors are going to say what is being done is not real medicine.
Yes.
It's just, this is just a matter. They found a real loophole in our system that gets around our constitutional rights and all of our protections under the First Amendment.
So let's now get into Ben and Jerry's. So Ben and Jerry's has come out as openly anti-Semitic and basically going against Israel. But there's some good movement, isn't there, Andrew, of some people that are now saying we're going to divest from Ben and Jerry's because you're trying to divest from Israel.
Yeah, I mean, and I love this story too, just as context here, because so many emails that we get to the show, freedom@charliekirk.com, are what can we do? How do we fight back? What can we do to push back? What can we do to be more vocal? And for those of you listening who don't know, this is part of what Second Vote does. And I love this because this story about Ben and Jerry's is a real life example of how pushing back works, how getting loud works, sending letters, making phone calls, making your voice heard. So what's going on with Ben and Jerry's? Where can we spike the football yet? I mean, is there a victory here that we can celebrate?
What's interesting is we're seeing good activity by states divesting from Ben and Jerry's. We've had New Jersey and Texas, and we have states. Ben and Jerry's is advocating this boycott of Israel and they're being sympathetic to the Palestinians, even after the Palestinians are always the aggressor against Israel. But understand too, Ben and Jerry's is owned by Unilever, so you're really divesting yourself of Unilever to divest your ownership in Ben and Jerry's. But states are doing it, and they're big players. They buy lots of stock. They put lots of money into corporations through their pension funds. And yes, individuals are doing that as well. We're promoting people to contact Unilever through our website because we have this portal capability. And by the way, just to backtrack to Uber and Lyft, for the next 7 days, we're opening up our research to anybody and everybody that wants to come on our website and directly communicate to Uber and Lyft about what they're doing. So you don't have to be a subscriber. You don't have to be an investment council member to get to that information. Anybody who's listening can come on and directly communicate to them. But we've had a lot of activity going on with contacting Unilever, and you're right. Typically, we're silent. We don't speak up. But when we do speak up, the message, then we get a balance in the messaging. And this can make a difference, and it will make a difference.
I love this. I go ahead if you.
No, I'm very pro boycott when it comes to boycotting the other side. I never used to be that way, but it works. And why? I mean, you and we boycott Planned Parenthood, don't we? And so why wouldn't we boycott companies that associate with Planned Parenthood? This idea that, we don't do boycotts on our side. You do boycotts every day.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't buy things that are, you don't go to the church of, the temple of Satan and give and tithe to them. Of course not. So you not going is a form of boycott.
Yeah, it's a choice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a choice. As conservatives, we've always been very tentative with that word, and we don't want to put that word on you guys, of course.
But I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point where, you see that it is effective, and when you raise the alarm bell about a company that, hey, this doesn't represent your values, I think ultimately at the end of the day, whether we call it that or not, there is that taking place.
So at secondvote.com, everyone could check it out, secondvote.com. I have to talk about this because we had a Turning Point USA event in the Panhandle, and I don't know how the topic came up, but all of a sudden Chick-fil-A came up. And I had to just inform the audience that Chick-fil-A is a woke Southern Poverty Law Center contributing drag queen story hour supporting organization. And
have they gone full drag queen story hour?
I'm going to read it right here. And so most people don't know that. Most people and I just have to always reiterate this, because there's this kind of love affair that conservatives have with Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A, which used to be very strong Christian and conservative, is woke, weak, and pro-transgender. I'll read it to you. So Chick-fil-A, as you guys know, cut off all their donations to the Salvation Army. Remember when they did that a couple years ago? Well, they also
Yes.
sent a check to Covenant House. So they support Covenant House,
Yes.
a group that supports local drag queen story hours across the
Oh, my
country
goodness.
and celebrates LGBTQ pride. Further, Chick-fil-A has donated to the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is one of the most gross and
It's a hate group.
they are a hate group, and they come after conservatives professionally.
And Christians, if you believe in traditional marriage.
Yes, that's right. And that's just a little bit of that. Not to mention the CEO of Chick-fil-A went to a church and got on his knees and says that it's time for white people to start to atone for what they did wrong against the sins of black people. And so I just want to say this, and I'm happy to say Second Vote reflects that with a negative score of 2.08 on Chick-fil-A. Do you guys want to, I know you guys weren't prepared to talk about Chick-fil-A, but I just want to make sure everyone knows that when you get those chicken sandwiches, you're funding Drag Queen Story Hour.
Yeah. And we did report on all of this at the
Yes.
time. And you mentioned Covenant House, which is very interesting. This is another bait and switch organization. Covenant House, when they send out their mailings, and I don't know how my dear wife got on their mailing list, but we see their mailings directly to our home. But they represent themselves as a Christian organization. And you're absolutely right. They work with sex change operations.
Yes.
They work with directing teenage pregnant females to abortions. Covenant House, you may get a mailing at home, and you read it and you think, oh, this is a great Christian organization. It is not, just as Chick-fil-A has been in the process of changing who they are. And it is not only did they also, Campus Crusade for Christ, or one of the college Christian programs, they also withdrew funding from them, which was significant. It was not just Salvation Army. So they really defunded out of their donation list a number of great Christian organizations that help America every day through the Salvation Army, through these putting Christ on the campuses. And it is a change. And sad to say, I mean, I used to go there all the time because we've got Chick-fil-A's all around us here in Middle Tennessee, but I don't do it anymore. It's just, and to go back to the boycott thing, we're advocating be a good steward of your, of what you have and shop your values. We don't use boycott and boycott because Christians and conservatives don't do that very well. We tried to boycott Disney years ago, and that was a real failure. So what we need to do is to just shop our values. And that's what we try to show at Second Vote is this is what's going to happen with your money if you spend your money here, or if you donate your money there, or if you invest in that company.
Well, Dr. Black, I want to kind of go back to this story with Ben and Jerry's. I mean, something we say on this show is that the conservative movement, it's not to say that people weren't putting a lot of effort in and there wasn't, battles fought and waged in the past, but in many ways, the conservative movement is only just now waking up to the depth and the seriousness and the urgency of the threat that we're facing.
And the corporate tyranny.
So, yeah. I mean, maybe certain tactics didn't work before, but I do think that there is a growing sense of urgency on the right. And I do think that there's something about boycotting. It definitely strikes against the conservative disposition. I totally grant you that. It's not something that we're inclined to do. It's not something that we want to do. But the point is, we're just now starting to really fight back, and tools like Second Vote are so important because of that, because it actually gives a chance to raise your voice. And I completely agree. Step 1, 2, and 3 should be write notes, make phone calls. Tell these people in power in charge of these woke corporates that we do care and we are watching, and this will affect you. So I think this is why I love this Ben and Jerry story so much, because it's proof that our efforts, our energy are working. I think so many times conservatives feel like we're yelling into the abyss. It's like we keep telling everybody how bad things are getting, but it keeps getting worse. Well, at some point there's going to be an inflection point, and I think this is part of the story, part of the success story that we can take with us.
But I do agree with you, but I think the issue is, we're about 10 or 20 years behind the curve on what the left has been doing.
Totally.
While we've been busy living and raising families, building businesses, going about life, for the left, their religion is their politics.
Yeah.
And that is our disadvantage. They are very well organized. They're very well funded. This CEO of Lyft, he's a World Economic Forum, Davos, one world government kind of guy. Salesforce, every time you spend $1 for Salesforce, you're spending money with a company that has a CEO that really does not care about America at all.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the United States. He doesn't care about those small investors that are trying to save money for retirement. He's got a larger agenda. And a lot of these big international companies are led by CEOs that are adopting that, gee, we might have been birthed in America, but now we're an international company. And, we're going to engage in a agenda that ultimately is really an attack on Western civilization and on America itself.
Well, and there's the pipeline from college campuses to corporate boardrooms. What happens on college campuses does not stay there. It goes to corporate boardrooms. And I think everyone needs to go to secondvote.com and become a partner and a member. And I agree, conservatives, we are really bad at boycotts, but we better get good at it really soon. And this is to put it bluntly, and Christians and conservatives don't like it when you say this. We need to inflict pain on our opponents and give support to our friends. We need to make it hurt when they do stuff like this. And the reason they do stuff like this is they laugh and they chuckle in their boardrooms because they know we won't. Because they know that we'll keep on going to Chick-fil-A and funding transgender drag queen story hour. They know that conservatives are still going to have Disney Plus subscriptions. They know we're going to keep on buying iPhones. And so until we start to say we want to make them suffer, things won't change. But I do think that communicating to them through Second Vote and getting the information is going to make a big difference, especially in today's time. Closing thoughts, Andrew?
No, I totally agree with what Charlie said. I think a lot of people go, well, if we just, if we don't really have any levers at our disposal to really push these companies around. And I think there is an underestimation of the power of just making your voice heard, sending the letters and the notes. At the end of the day, there are still a few sane people at many of these companies, right? And if they, and they want to push back against this younger middle management crowd that's coming up and going into senior leadership roles as well. A lot of these people are saying they just probably feel powerless within these company structures, right? Because there is a sort of moral certitude that comes out of the young culture warriors and the activists that are coming up through the ranks. And so they probably get isolated when they start getting letters, bombarded with letters, from places like Second Vote, and all of you listening are making that happen. You're giving the sane ones in the room, the adults in the room, if you will, Charlie, you're giving them an opportunity to say, look, I'm right here, and we need to stop this, or we're going to see real pain inflicted upon the company and our shareholders. So I'm all for being loud and doing everything you can. It's like, well, what do? You do all of the above. You spend your money wisely. You raise a stink for these companies. And so, final word to you guys. How should people, take what we just talked about? Is there hope? How can they get involved?
Charlie, I do believe that there is hope, and I'm always going to have hope. And I will tell you, when I was in Congress, if I got a call on a particular issue of 10 people, I knew there were a whole lot of other people out there that were looking and watching what was happening. And so it doesn't take every single person in the country to call someone or call a company to let them know how they feel. And your voice out there, too, is really helping with this. But we need to make sure that we're doing just that. We're letting those companies that we know are woke, that we don't like it and we know it, and that we are going to spread the word and we're not going to buy their products. So I'm not going to give up. I think this is a great way to get the message out. You all have done a great job. And as Dave has already said, we are seeing results.
Amen.
And you just heard from a woman who loves Ben and Jerry's.
Oh my gosh.
But she will not be
Jerry,
buying Ben and Jerry's.
Well, I don't know if they're I don't know if they're woke or not. Not too far from you guys. But if you've never had Grater's ice cream, you are missing out on something. So,
well, that's
Grater's, great.
Yeah, this is a great example of a category that's got lots of alternatives. You don't need to buy Ben and Jerry's.
I think Ben and Jerry's is average compared to Grater's.
I completely
Grater's is more expensive.
You're right.
It's more expensive. It's a good Cincinnati company, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Cincinnati.
Yes,
You're all right.
You're right.
And
right.
it is the best ice cream.
I'm a big Salt and
You've ever
Straw
had
fan. It's a
Graters?
West Coast thing. I haven't had Graters.
Oh,
but yeah, here's the thing. I think that the moral of the story today is don't buy Ben and Jerry's, buy Graters or something
if they're
else.
not woke. I mean,
and then
I
hail
don't
a
know,
cab,
but
I guess.
I'm on Grader's website and I haven't been offended yet. So,
Well, that's something.
Well, check it out.
not offended is the wrong word. I haven't been angered yet.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, Grader's ice cream gets you to another level of existence. It's terrific.
See, we ended on a high note here. There is hope. There is indeed hope.
Secondvote.com, everybody. Check it out. Secondvote.com. Boycott the bad companies. Boycott the good ones, even though it's not in our nature. But secondvote.com gives you the information to do that. They do a wonderful job. Check it out. Promo code Charlie, $2 a month. You guys can afford that to be able to support the good guys. Secondvote.com. God bless you guys. See you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. God bless you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Email us your thoughts, freedom@charliekirk.com. God bless you guys. Speak to you soon.
For more on many of these stories and news you can trust, go to charliekirk.com.